Star Wars: The Mandalorian Season 2 pretty much takes place right after the events of Season 1 and is created by John Favreau and Dave Filoni once again.
So I've heard. This is the way.
What's going on, everybody? Don Martino here from Extract Media, and we are still prepping for The Mandalorian Season 3. This is going to be the last video I do before the premiere. This is going to be The Mandalorian Season 2 review. I'm very excited to talk about this one today. Much like the first season, this one's broken up into 8 different chapters, although the chapters start where the first season left off, so it starts with Chapter 9, for example. I do want to give you a forewarning here. I'm not going to try to refrain from spoilers in this review, so if you don't want to know anything, please do tune out now. If you just don't care and want to hear my spoiler thoughts before you check the show out, go ahead and stick around. It's fine. So Chapter 9 is entitled The Marshal. It's directed by John Favreau himself. I was very excited to see that he be directing the premiere of this season. In this episode, Mando continues the search for other Mandalorian, and he's told that there's some on Tatooine. There's an incredible action sequence where he pretty much takes down a mob boss to give him this information. It's pretty cool. He has him eaten by dogs. So he goes to Tatooine. He meets up with Palimata once again, who's played by Amy Sedaris. I think she's much better this season than she was in the episode in Season 1. I really enjoyed her comedy here. I thought it played a lot more sharp. She tells him to go to Mos Pelgo, so Mando goes up to Mos Pelgo. He meets with Timothy Oliphant's character, Cobb Vanth. I knew this character was going to be walking around with Boba Fett's armor. I love Oliphant in this role so much, and the reason I knew that is because I read the Star Wars Aftermath trilogy, which is a great trilogy kind of laying out the timeline of events post the Empire's fall, and I really think everybody should read that. It's a really good trilogy. So in exchange for Mandalorian's help with the crate dragon that's been bothering Mos Pelgo, Cobb Vanth agrees to give the Mandalorian that armor back because Mando's pissed about this. He doesn't want anybody who's not a Mandalorian wearing Mandalorian armor. It was great to see a crate dragon in this episode, by the way. We'd really only seen the bones of one in Star Wars Episode 4 New Hope. Mando does recruit some sand people to help them out to defeat this crate dragon, seeing as how the crate dragon's been a problem for them too, and this reminded me so much of the mission in Knights of the Old Republic where he helps some sand people defeat a crate dragon. Favreau has clearly played that game, and one of the things I love that he did here for this action sequence is he opened it up to the IMAX ratio, which gave you better perspective of how massive this crate dragon is. It makes it all the more scary and intimidating, and I love the sequence so much, and I love the sound design for the crate dragon. That also makes it that much more scary and intimidating. It's a great action sequence, but they defeat the crate dragon in an amazing fashion, and Mando gets the armor back, and then they tease Boba Fett's been watching them from the distance, and Boba Fett looks beat up, man. He did get out of the Sarlacc pit, but it took a lot out of him. Chapter 10 is entitled The Passenger, and this one's directed by Peyton Reed. I was happy to see this. I was a huge fan of Peyton Reed's before even going into this episode. It's basically a horror episode where Mandalorian agrees to take a woman and her eggs, yes, her eggs that contain her children, back home in exchange for her husband telling him where some Mandalorian are that he can find. On the way, they get stopped by these rebel pilots. I love that the rebels are basically space cops at this point in time. They pretty much pull them over on the side of the road essentially, and then Mando takes off, and just like in reality, if you try to escape a cop, they go after him. And this chase sequence is so cinematically beautiful. It reminded me of Top Gun. It was really awesome. Peyton Reed shot the hell out of it. But basically Mando's ship crashes into this hole, and then they encounter these giant spiders on this ice planet that start to chase them down. It's very creepy. Spiders I just don't do. I don't like big spiders, but I have to credit the episode with how great they handled this. The rebels end up tracking Mando's ship down anyway, and they pretty much come in and help them defeat these giant spiders, and the rebel cops essentially are pretty much like, all right, how about we just forget about the whole chase thing and let you go. So chapter 11 is called The Harris, and this one's directed by Bryce Dallas Howard. I was so happy to see her back. I really liked the work she did in Season 1. So Mando's ship kind of crashes down on the woman's planet. Yeah, it's in pretty bad shape at this point, which is crazy, and it's pretty much an homage to Bryce Dallas Howard's father. She shoots this sequence pretty much shot for shot like he shoots shoots a sequence at Apollo 13, Ron Howard, that is, her dad, and I really loved this homage. It was really good. It was really cool to see. So the woman's husband does hold up his end of the deal. He tells Mando to go to this restaurant and meet a man who's going to help him get to some Mandalorian, but this other man ends up taking him out to sea, claiming he knows where some Mandalorians at. And once they're out on sea, these locations just look fantastic. I like the variety of locations that this season has as opposed to season 1. I think they do a really good job with that. But on the boat, the man tries to feed the child to a sea monster. The child does get swallowed by the sea monster, but in his crib, so obviously he's still alive, but Mando dies after him. He can't save him, and then some other Mandalorians, actually 3 other Mandalorians, come in and kick some ass, and then they save the child. It's a badass scene. But even better is one of these Mandalorian is Bo-Katan Kryze. I'm a huge fan of this character from Rebels and the Clone Wars. I love those animated series, and I'm glad that she was incorporated here into live action. Even better, it's Katie Sackhoff playing her, who did the voice for Bo-Katan in those series. Obviously, this is a much older version of Bo-Katan, but Katie Sackhoff just fits the role. She's the right age at this point. We also know at this point, if you've seen Rebels, that Bo-Katan was the last person to wield the Darksaber, and obviously she's still after this thing because he wants Mando to help her and her companions infiltrate a rebel transport to try to get Gideon's location so she can get the Darksaber. Obviously, at the end of season 1, it was teased that Gideon had the Darksaber. And there's a badass action sequence here that Bryce Dallas Howard directs the hell out of. I love the action against the stormtroopers. It's so good. They do end up pretty much taking down the transport, but the guy who has Gideon's location gets killed by Gideon. He has some type of shock mechanism that kills him before the guy can give out the location. But the deal's a deal, and Bo-Katan does tell Mandalorian to go to Corvus to meet Ahsoka Tano. And this, as a fan, gets me so excited because I love Ahsoka Tano. She's my second favorite Star Wars character, but she's also only been seen in animation, so I couldn't wait to see what she was like in live action. Also, if you've seen the Clone Wars animated series, you pretty much know Ahsoka Tano is pretty much an ex-Jedi. She's not really a Jedi. She's not a part of that order anymore. She doesn't consider herself a Jedi. So this lays out some interesting groundwork right here. Chapter 12 is called The Siege. It's directed by Carl Weathers. Yes, you heard me right. Directed by Carl Weathers, the actor. Mando returns to Navarro and meets up with Cara Dune, played by Gina Carano, and Grief Karga is played by Carl Weathers. And obviously, it was great to see his season 1 companions back in this season. I really love that. And they asked Mando for help. Everybody's asking Mando for help these days, apparently, because they asked him for help to take down an Imperial base in exchange for maintenance on his ship. When they get into this Imperial base, they do discover a message from Dr. Pershing that gives more details on the experiments the Empire's running. They also see a Bacta tank that looks like it's containing like a dead body of a Supreme Leader Snoke. This implies that they might need the child's blood to help them clone and make a Supreme Leader Snoke. This will tie back into the sequel trilogy, obviously. I think Carl Weathers just did an impressive job with Star Wars-like action in this one. There's a lot of TIE fighter action. It's really awesome to look at. I really love this episode. Their mission's successful here, and Mando and the child take off. So, of course, Chapter 13 is called The Jedi. This one's directed by Dave Filoni. Filoni directed a masterful episode here that's the best in the season easily. It's a great introduction of Ahsoka Tano into the live action. She's played by Rosario Dawson here, and in the forest on Corvus, she's taking people out one by one. It's basically a Star Wars slasher movie. It's really awesome to watch. Oh my gosh, her lightsabers look amazing. They sound amazing. The sound design is so impressive here. Then Mando enters Corvus and finds out that this town was taken over by somebody called the Magistrate. It would explain what Ahsoka Tano is doing there, taking people out. The Magistrate pretty much wants Mando to go kill Ahsoka Tano, but he finds Ahsoka and they pretty much agree to help each other, her to take the child and Mando to help her take over this town. Ahsoka connects to the child through the Force. We get to see the child use the Force a little bit, which is very interesting. And here's where we find out that the child's name is Grogu. There's fantastic lightsaber action here toward the end at the third act of this episode, and I like that you can see Rosario Dawson did a ton of her own stunts. I mean, it's incredible lightsaber action. And the fight between Ahsoka and the Magistrate at the end, oh my gosh, is amazing. It's in the top 5 greatest lightsaber moments of all time. This entire sequence almost looks like an Akira Kurosawa film. Knowing that Dave Filoni is inspired mostly by westerns and samurai films, I love that on one side of the wall you got Mando with the shootout with Michael Biehn's character in here, and it looks like a western on one side of the wall. The other side of the wall is like a samurai movie with Ahsoka fighting the Magistrate. It's incredible. It's masterful work. And here at the end of this fight, we do learn that Ahsoka is trying to seek out Grand Admiral Thrawn, which is awesome. Thrawn is one of my favorite Star Wars characters out there. I really love that guy. If you've read some of the canon materials with him, he's extremely threatening. If you've seen Star Wars Rebels, you know Mando. He's an extremely threatening character. I can't wait to see him in live action. And this basically does set up what the Ahsoka series is going to be coming out this year. So here Ahsoka instructs Mando to take Grogu to a seeing stone where he can reach out to the Force and see if there's any Jedi out there. As we know at this time, there aren't many Jedi out there. And if there are any left, they will hopefully come to Grogu through the Force. They'll kind of be attracted by that and come get him. At the end of this episode where they take off to go to the seeing stone, Ludwig Göransson really does a great rendition of Ahsoka Tano's theme song. I really loved hearing it here. It was a great score, great version, great rendition of it. So chapter 14 is called The Tragedy. It's done by one of my favorite directors, Robert Rodriguez. I really love him, especially when it comes to action films. And this is pretty much a mini movie of Boba Fett directed by Robert Rodriguez. And it really plays like a Robert Rodriguez action film because Boba shows up with Fennec Shan, who's played by Ming-Na Wen. And I love that Tamora Morrison is playing Boba Fett here, seeing as how Tamora played Jango Fett and Boba's his clone son. I love that idea. He wants his armor back from Mando, but then the Empire shows up and Grogu's on the seeing stone, and then we get some incredible Boba Fett action. I mean, my gosh, he is shattering stormtroopers, not just taking them out, shattering them. And then the moment he's revealed, he goes and gets a suit and he's revealed to be in a suit. Wow! Explosions everywhere. I mean, this is an amazing Star Wars episode for sure. At the end, though, they do kind of fail in the sense that the Dark Troopers do end up getting the child anyway. So at the end, Boba Fett pretty much agrees to help Mando get the child in exchange for the armor. Also at the end here, though, what's really sad, it's very tragic to watch Mando go through the remnants of his ship because his ship, the Razor Crest, does get blown up. Oh man, that made me sad as a fan. But Boba Fett does reveal to Mandalorian that he is a Mandalorian himself, which ends a very long fan debate that definitely puts that to rest. A lot of fans have debated over the years if Boba's a Mandalorian or not. But I also like this information because it puts Mandalorian's mind at ease. Given him that armor, he's not very upset about it anymore. So the Mandalorian at the end recruits Cara Dune to help him get Bill Burr's character Mayfeld out of prison. I was so happy that he was returning, and Mayfeld is going to help them get the coordinates on Moff Gideon is the idea here. So chapter 15 is called The Believer. It's directed by Rick Famuyiwa. I was really happy to see Rick come back to do this. I mean, I really loved his 2 episodes in the first season. So they go and get Mayfeld, and then they go back to the Imperial base. They disguise in Imperial armor to go infiltrate the base, at least Mayfeld and Mando anyway. There's fun action along the way where pirates jump from roof to roof on these transports that they're driving, and Mando takes a bunch of them out, but then these TIE fighters come and blow the rest of them up. It's really fun. Once they're in the base, Mayfeld pretty much recognizes one of the Imperial officers near the kiosk where they have to go to get these coordinates, and it's all face recognition, so you know what that means for Mando. Mando's gonna have to go in there and he's gonna have to take off his helmet, and by golly did Pedro Pascal do just a fantastic job just looking so traumatized by the fact that he had to have his helmet off in front of people, especially when he gets recognized. They go and have this like drink with this officer that Bill Burr recognized. It's a very tense scene, and Bill Burr does a great job here. You realize what Mayfeld had been through with these Imperials in the past, and you really start to feel for him as a character a lot more. And Bill Burr, and rightfully so, honestly, I mean, it was probably the stupid move, but rightfully so, does shoot down this Imperial, and it pretty much causes chaos, but they do manage to barely escape there at the end. Boba Fett comes and picks him up in the Slave One, and this leads to what? A seismic charge, my favorite sound in all of Star Wars. I loved watching him blow up these TIE fighters with the seismic charge. It was pretty incredible. So at the end, Mando sends Gideon a message pretty much saying, hey, we're coming for you, buddy, so look out. This sets up an epic finale. I love that the message paralleled the one that Gideon gave Mando at the end of episode 7 of season 1. I thought that was very, very cool. And so, of course, chapter 16 is called The Rescue, and this one is directed by Peyton Reed. I was surprised to see him do the finale of all the directors that they had, but this finale is amazingly epic. Peyton Reed did a phenomenal job here. Boba and Mando recruit Bo-Katan and her Mandalorian companion in exchange for the Darksaber. They kidnap Dr. Pershing, and it's revealed that he's a clone engineer, so this really does lead to implications that he might be the reason that Palpatine returns later on. But we'll see if that even happens. I mean, we'll see if they touch on that maybe in season 3 or something. It's going to be very interesting moving forward. So they end up pretty much getting onto Gideon's ship, and oh my gosh, the action's amazing with the troopers and all of them fighting the troopers, shooting them down. It's incredibly well shot stuff. And this obviously leads to a one-on-one with Mandalorian and Gideon. Mandalorian fighting him with the Beskar pole as Gideon has the Darksaber. It's very cool and very epic. But Mandalorian ends up disarming the Darksaber, but oh boy, because he goes back into the bridge where Bo-Katan is, and Bo-Katan's pretty upset that Mando has his Darksaber. It's revealed through Gideon that she needs to earn this Darksaber through combat if she ever wants to rule Mandalore. This is a whole new idea introduced to us as fans of this stuff, pretty much. I mean, we didn't really know this was going to be a thing, but I do like that they put a new spin onto this, because honestly, it did add a lot more tension here in this final scene. But they can't talk about this right now because basically they start to get cornered by all these dark troopers. An X-Wing pretty much pulls into the ship, and off comes nobody else but Luke Skywalker himself, the man. He comes in with his lightsaber, my favorite Star Wars character of all time, and he starts wrecking shop. It is amazing. It's probably the coolest Luke Skywalker lightsaber moment we've ever had. He's using the Force to crush some of these dark troopers. Man, I just love this sequence so much. He walks in, he takes his hood off, he walks in with R2-D2. The Force theme starts to play. I'm glad that Ludwig Göransson pretty much incorporated that. I mean, this is such exciting stuff. It's Mark Hamill there, but they did a deep fake job to kind of de-age him to make him look like Luke Skywalker. I know a lot of people complained about this. I didn't have a major issue with it like a lot of people, but it looked fine. But the ending is just so emotional without a doubt. Once Mando takes off his helmet to say goodbye to Grogu, oh my gosh, that'll steal your heart. And Luke Skywalker has to take Grogu, and there's a big goodbye, and Mando just looks so sad that he's losing this child. Oh my gosh, it gets me choked up almost every time I watch it. And gosh, Ludwig's score at the end. I can't praise Ludwig's score in this season enough. Ludwig Göransson is the man when it comes to this score. Holy shit. I mean, it's so good here at the end. It's amazing. All right, guys, look, this was a great season overall, though. There are one or two shots maybe that look cheap, but they're very minor. The mission of the week feel limits it from being peak Star Wars, in my opinion, but this one did have much more of an overarching story overall. As I said, Ludwig Göransson's score is just unbelievably great. Overall, this is much better than the first season. I barely had any issues with this one. And yeah, guys, that'll do it. I am done with all the videos I need to do to prep for season 3's premiere tomorrow. I'm so excited, but I'm gonna go ahead and give The Mandalorian season 2 a must watch. I hope you guys had a lot of fun revisiting all this with me. I definitely did. It was kind of like a trip down memory lane, but I'm so excited for season 3 of The Mandalorian tomorrow. And before I get out of here, guys, please hit the like button below, subscribe to the channel, leave some feedback in the comment section below, share this with your friends, and hit the bell for notifications. That's always much appreciated. Once again, I'm Don Martino, and I will talk to you guys later.